continuing the testing, I installed the LRP Carb. I don't know what venture size it is, but I'll double check next. I removed the Nova Rossi. I think this is 24064 2 needle carb that I had on the previous run. I'm going to run the LRP now and see if I could get a noticeable difference from the good stable idle we got from the Nova Rossi. So it's a direct drop in into the body of the K5.9. What does that mean? It means that a K carb will work in an LRP as the LRP works in a K. Also, it will work, they're compatible with Nova Rossi with the exception of I call this a spigot length. I chose not to mill off the 1 millimeter like some guys do in case I have to go back to a Nova Rossi engine. What I do is I run two O-rings. So I don't have to machine my spigot, that's what I call that. So I could keep the same Nova Rossi carb that I use in this engine in the LRP and back to a Nova Rossi because I did not mill the face. So I'm gonna test this right now as is. I'm gonna set the gap. Obviously it's too wide there. I'm gonna go down to 1 millimeter or 0.7 and just take a few quick runs. Nothing big, just to see how it idles and how it runs. So that's initial startup with the needle settings I showed before. Initial startup. I measured the venturi gap in there in this engine and it's 8.5. So I'm going to lean out the low because it's known that LRP carbs are rich. So I'm going to lean it out that much just if you could see it. Right here. So let's try to fire it back up. So that was too much on the gap offset. See that when I brake it shuts off. So I'm gonna reset the air gap and adjust my endpoints and restart. So see that air gap, it's too big. The mistake I did was I set the air gap with the car off. So the previous endpoints I had in there on the older carb, came on this one because I didn't reset the endpoint for this carb. So I'm going to keep the endpoints the same and I'm just going to adjust the air gap. So this is the LRP Spec carb on the K5.9, and I must say I'm seeing differences with the Nova Rossi carb. Tuning wise and idle. Let's listen to idle. It doesn't idle as stable. Very rich on low. It's not as stable as a Nova Rossi carb. See, it's asking for fuel on top, but if I put more fuel on top, it richens the low as well. And then if I lean out the low, you get Chewbacca. But it does have power though. It's just that it's not as smooth as the Nova Rossi carb regarding, you know, tuning. Mind you, this one doesn't have the thermal insulator on the part that goes into the engine, so it's aluminum on aluminum, so that makes it very unstable from a tuning standpoint, because all that heat is going inside the carb, and it's affecting the inlet flow temperature. So as the engine warms up, your tune will change, and that's what I'm trying to show here. Power wise, it's good. I mean, it has an 8.5 millimeter opening, so it's getting fuel. It's just that it's sensitive to temperature, and the needles are very coarse, you know. So after I run it very hard like this, I'm going to listen to the idle. I could flip it all day in the mud. It won't scratch, it won't damage it. That's fine. I just don't drive it like that on the tarmac, because all that part, you know, all the car is scratched up. So I could flip it all I want in the mud and grass. So the idle is a little bit too low, too rich on, you know, on the idle. And I said if I try to lean out the bottom to get the idle a little bit more lean, it runs really lean when you let off the throttle. So it's a very fine window to get this carb to work. And again, as it warms up, it's even worse. So it could run. It's just that you just have to find that sweet spot, and it's very temperature dependent. Look at that. And I could tell you it probably killed the glow plug. Because it had fuel in it. Fuel is not done. It just shut off. I could tell it killed the glow plug. And it wasn't running lean or anything. The engine is not terribly hot, out of the norm. So I'm gonna check why it shut off. Let me show you the gap I'm running, the air gap. So you see the bubbles? Not good. So the carb probably vapor lock. You don't want that. That's the reason why you don't want to run non-insulated carbs or fully metal carbs like this. You could run metal, but it has to have that insulated sleeve, so you get that vapor lock. So that's probably what shut it off. Vapor lock. I'm not gonna run it anymore. It's almost time for supper, but again, the LRP carb fits, it will run. I will show you my needle setting running 30%. You can see the screw is just below flush on high. Low, not terribly bad, but you have to get it in there a couple turns in, because you know it runs so rich. You got to back the screw in a little bit, but not too. And then you potentially could see my idle screw is just right there, just below flush either, but just go by the gap here. That's the gap that will allow it to start and run with these needle settings. So you see I got plenty of smoke and a very low idle. So we're still getting a lot of fuel on the bottom and idle. I could get more on the gap, but that gap is big enough. That's over a millimeter right there for it to run. I was running that big gap on the Nova Rossi carb. So there you have it. It runs. Tuning is not the same. It's not terrible, but you just have to play with it. But the biggest issue is the thermal insulation between the engine and the carburetor. This carburetor does not have that plastic sleeve over it, so you will boil the fuel as I showed you, and you will vapor lock, and I think that was what shut the car off. So the vapor lock killed the glow plug. So I put a hot glow plug in there right now. The idle is a little bit better, but it's still rich on low. It's a hot plug now, so I don't know if I'm gonna keep the same tune. Let's see. Nope. So you gotta lean it out a little bit because of the richness. Still lean on low a little bit. Just give it one more pass. Okay, still need a little bit more richening. Yeah, because run the hot plug now. That's the only one I had left. Okay, that's better now. Let's run out this tank. Yeah, I think that my battery is dead or something. I'm not getting any steering. Let's see what's happening to it. Throttle is working, but no steering. Lost steering. Steering. Good thing I have a spare one at home. Okay, cool. Well, that's done for today. Tank is done. My reviews of this carb on the engine, I probably won't run it again. It's not stable. As I run the car, hoping it would get up to temperature and settle out, but because as you run the car, it gets hotter. The carb fuels differently, and I showed you the vapor lock occurring. Made it run a bit lean and kill the glow plug. So this is the final time or last time I'll run the X-Tech carb on this engine. But you could get it to work, but I showed you the advantage or the difference with the Nova Rossi. Better stable idle. It will control your temperatures better because you're not having this erratic performance for air and vapor versus fuel fighting to get into the engine. And when you have situations like that, it's not good for the engine itself, so it's not the best. Okay, bye.